Hey everybody. So I just I spent like 3 hours working on a lovely series of readings from my book, my philosophy book, Philosophical Fridays, that is available online on Amazon in the description below for a very, very low price of like 3 or 4 something odd dollars. And it was great. And then Garageband decided to destroy it. Yeah, so that's 3 hours of my life never gonna get back. So, yay, fun times, except they aren't. So, whatever, screw it, let's do some reading. I'm going to read 2 sections, and they will be fun because books are fun. Alright, whatever. Hello, and welcome to Philosophical Fridays, week 79. It's no secret that I'm a fan of Aristotle's moderation-centric model of virtues and ethics. Everything, yes, everything, has excesses and deficiencies. Neither is as good as the mean, the sweet spot of a virtue. Excess of courage is recklessness, and deficiency of courage is timidity. Proper courage, the mean, is what we want to have. Even if we don't always fall on that mean, we succeed in trying to be good people by simply striving for the mean, that middle moderate road, at all. A different system of virtue that I also quite like is Machiavelli's two-part system of vices and virtues as described in The Prince. Vices can become virtues, say stealing from one to help another, and virtues can become vices, say generosity to the point of self-sacrifice. Basically, instead of 3 parts on a scale like with Aristotle, there are 2 parts that loop back around each other with Machiavelli. This looping action between vices and virtues is extremely fluid. Good, cool. Now, how do they fit together, or do they at all? I'll surely look like a knob if I get halfway through this to realize that it doesn't work at all. So let's hope. Okay. Both systems focus on the degree and context of actions. In both, an action does not have any moral weight attached to it in a vacuum, because the morality comes from context. The vice of stealing can be a necessary evil for the virtue of survival, but if you take its opposite virtue, generosity, and misuse it, you find yourself a squanderer, and you harm yourself, making a vice out of what was once a virtue. Machiavelli doesn't specify which direction the rotation of vices and virtues moves. It's meant to work in both directions. More or less of a virtue can render it a vice, depending on the context, just as in Aristotle. He would say here that greed is excessive, squandering is deficient, but providing yourself with the necessities for biological, emotional, social, whatever, survival is the mean and therefore the virtue. The misapplication of virtue diverts from the mean and into the vices of excess and deficiency. Aristotle and Machiavelli make the same points about the same issues here. Deficiencies are vices, as are excesses, and means are virtues. So yay, they actually fit after all. That's good. Happy Friday. And then after every section of writing I have in here, there's always a little bit of commentary that I did a year after I originally wrote it. I go back and explain more, relate it to other stuff, dig a little deeper, but for the sake of keeping you on the edge of your seat, I'm going to leave that a mystery and move on to the next piece of writing on the next page. So let's do that. Hello and welcome to Philosophical Fridays, week 80. I'm going to sleep early on a Friday night because I have a fencing tournament I have to wake up for early tomorrow. On that subject, this week I discovered something great about both fencing and philosophy. Yay. Lao Tzu, the guy who came up with Daoism, talked about what's called wu wei, which more or less means action without intention. In Daoism, undoubtedly the most relaxing of all philosophies to practice, all action should be done without thinking about the action itself. It's like how babies or extremely stupid animals do things. They don't think about what they do, they just do. The most famous example is water. Water does all sorts of actions, but water obviously doesn't think. The Taoist idea is that thinking leads to worry, which leads to a lack of harmony. So, just chill the hell out and everything will be harmonic. This brings me to fencing. During the past week, I've discovered that I'm a much better fencer than I thought I was when I simply don't think about it. I need to be in the zone, as it were, which is exactly Taoism. What that means is that I need to fence intelligently and not just sit there overthinking my actions to the point where I paralyze myself and end up getting stabbed. Wait, what's that? There's a middle ground between too much action and too little action? That's crazy. It almost sounds like Daoism and Aristotelianism fit neatly together. Huh. It's in the naming of the thing itself. Action without intention is the middle ground. No action is a deficiency that leads to nothing good. Action with too much intention is an extreme which confuses the matter and leads to nothing good. But acting without specific intention is, literally by the name itself, a classic Aristotelian middle ground. Fancy that. 2 weeks of bringing philosophies together in a row. Huh, and with Aristotle no less. Even outside of an athletic context, Daoism's pretty great. You know how the craziest, most brilliant ideas strike you when you're in the shower, of all places? In that case, you're just thinking without intention, so it feels like the idea just comes to you out of nowhere. The reason it happens in the shower is because that's one of the very few remaining places in our world where we have little to no outside stimuli, so our minds calmly wander about until something genius strikes. It's why sometimes when eating by myself, I slip into a mode where I'm just staring at some uninteresting point in space and my mind can just kind of go. It's lovely, really. It's easy to write off Daoism as impractical laziness when looking at older interpretations, but in a practical, more modern application, it's simply being calm and not overthinking things. And I think we can all get behind that. Hell, to prove my point, I came up with a connection to Aristotle while staring aimlessly at my wall and holding on to a 2-week-old birthday balloon. That's Daoism in action right there. Happy Friday.